Hey, so it crossed my mind the other day that a majority of the player base of Geometry Dash doesn't know what makes a lot of levels hard, so I thought I might as well explain what makes the levels I go for interesting and difficult. Today's completion is NHELV My Esther, which doesn't really need much of an introduction due to its popularity, so I'll just get into the breakdown of the level. The first 10% or so really isn't that bad, as it's only a relatively easy ship section and some basic cube timing, which leads directly into this wave. The wave looks significantly harder than it is, and for the first few days of playing from zero I basically had a 100% pass consistency, but for some reason after that my consistency plummeted, and this became the main part that would stop me from getting far. The part requires a significant amount of attention due to its awkward structuring, and since in the beginning of the level I can probably pin the blame for struggling with the wave on me zoning out too much. Following this, we have a ball section that quickly becomes extremely consistent, followed by a relatively straightforward cube section with a short burst of wave that leads directly into the red part. Before starting NHELV, I had been told by someone that the red part was silent and the second hardest part of the level. Because of that, in my first few days of playing from zero, my enjoyment tanked because I thought every death I was getting past it was a wasted attempt. Luckily for me, this was not the case. The red part is a barrage of quick game mode transitions and awkward click patterns that becomes extremely consistent, and although it took a few days for the muscle memory to set in, I basically never died here from zero, and the level became much more enjoyable once I realized this. The transition into the black and white part, the UFO with tons of gravity portals, never really got consistent, although the frustration of dying here subsided after a while. Then we get to the actual hardest part of the level, the black and white part. I don't know what it was about this part, but I could not get consistent at it, no matter how many runs to 100 I did. The ship part in the beginning was overall fine, along with the spider preceding the wave, but the UFO and especially the wave I could not for the life of me ever pass consistently. The UFO eventually got somewhat consistent, but the wave never did. I probably got to the wave like 50 times and only 6 of those attempts got past it. The blue orb and deep lock combination used to make the part, along with the structuring, resulted in a lot of deaths where I should have hardly lived, but for those reasons, I did not. The worst part of this section was probably at 49%, where there is this toggle orb that is supposed to teleport you to the other side of this block. Unfortunately, it is possible to hit the toggle orb early enough that you end up teleporting inside the block, resulting in a frustrating way to end the run. The clicks immediately after 49% didn't help either, as the transition out of the teleport portal I found to be extremely awkward. If you got past the wave, you were basically set until the last build-up before the mountain. This build-up, consisting of a UFO followed by a ship art, while not necessarily the hardest thing in the world, was the only place I died past the black and white section, aside from the duel. The double click you see me do here at 64 was really inconsistent, and I died here twice. The ship part, while essentially only being a single ship since the cube is just for show, was really difficult for me. Due to being a dual ship physics applied, which if you don't know, feel heavier than normal because dual ship uses upside down ship physics for both ships. Because for some reason the physics of the two are different, as Rubbed Up decided that upside down ship would have a heavier gravity than normal. Since you are accustomed to upside down ship physics, you don't notice this normally, so for a dual ship the strategy would typically be to focus on the upside down ship, which would then feel normal. Unfortunately for this part, it is just one ship. This caused the ship part to be significantly harder than it otherwise would have been. On top of that, because of the cube teleporting all over the place for the effect, the spikes here are actually all triggers, meaning that their hitbox is fixed, making an already hard part much harder. Past that, there's basically no hard bits to the duel, the last and arguably hardest part of the level. The first few clicks of the duel are absolutely impossible, being probably the hardest clicks of the level. Past this, it relaxes a little bit until you get thrown very abruptly into the robot and cube duel. This part is really difficult, but thankfully gets very consistent. The final duel, the cube and the ship duel, is very weird and takes time to get used to, but it gets somewhat consistent and I thankfully never died here from zero. The duel is probably the hardest part for a lot of people, but fortunately for me, my playstyle results in this part only being marginally harder than the rest, as doing something 230 times tends to make you quite good at doing that thing. Past that is a short and easy section that I unfortunately have seen people die to, although that was not the case here. I'm really glad to have this done. I had a trip coming up in a few days and it would have sucked to have to stop playing the level for 2 weeks, but thankfully I managed to beat it before then. Here's the completion. And then when you get there from zero, you don't have to worry as much.
I just got there. I feel like I'm losing consistency. But at the same time, I don't really know. Oh my god, stop. Stop dying to this stupid UFO. I'm starting to get really bored. Because I'm not really getting much of anyone.
I beat it.
You beat it? Nah. I don't believe you. I don't believe you, Bosonic. I don't believe you.
Universe
I don't
is at
believe
sea.
you.
Yes!
I don't believe you.